And welcome to another episode of Keeping It Orange and Blue. I'm Ryan Evan, joined as always by Kevin Ducey. Kevin, were you able to have a decent weekend?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Like Dylan Gabriel being able to lead that drive in the fourth quarter, get the game-winning touchdown with just seconds to go against Texas was beautiful. As a guy who lives in Oklahoma City, I pull for the Sooners a little bit. I was on a plane from Vegas coming back home, watching that game. I worked during the Illinois game, so I did not watch it live. Uh, it was during the evening, obviously, and that's when I make my money at these conferences, shaking hands and kissing babies and doing that stuff, if you will. So I had to watch it on replay. I was frustrated with the score. I was more frustrated when I watched the game. I don't think the score was indicative of the outcome. I think we got our ass kicked. That we first forced 2 turnovers, I think, in the red zone to keep it from being a full-fledged blowout. Now, granted, we did turn the ball over in our red zone a couple times. One of them, just absolutely moronic, inexcusable, and I don't understand what's going on with our coaching staff and our decisions with the coin toss. You don't get the ball in the second half to start the second half, and you don't get the win in the fourth quarter. And furthermore, you're the home team in Memorial Stadium, and you don't know how to adjust to the win. To give up that much field position and inevitably a touchdown, which Nebraska scored 2 touchdowns in like 15 seconds of gameplay, it was just absolutely ridiculous. It's one of those things. I was thinking about the show tonight, Ryan, coming on, and I'm like, is that scene from Major League? You ever seen the movie Major League?
Yeah.
And Bob Uecker says something, and he says, "You can't say that on the air." He goes, "Who gives a shit? Nobody's listening anyway." I wonder. I wonder. There's either one or two things that are happening right now with our faithful. God love them. They're either really tuned in to hear what we're gonna say and like go off, or they're like, dude. I mean, like, I'm not trying to be a dick or short-sighted. Like, I don't really want to do the show. Like, it is that frustrating and irritating. And then like people calling me out, like, "Oh, you're just going to defend the coaching staff." Well, frankly, I'm not. There's so many things that we could get into line by line by line by line by line by line, and just go over what little intricacies and things that they're not doing that doesn't make any sense. And now the injuries are piling up, and the schedule gets tougher, right? We looked at this and said, hey, Purdue and Nebraska, they're not very good teams. They got new coaching staffs, and they gave us the business. And now we get Maryland at Maryland. We get Wisconsin. It's just and I predicted 10 wins. I'm a moron. I'm an idiot. I apologize to everybody. What the hell was I thinking?
Oh, man. All I did was ask him how his weekend was. So if that doesn't tell you guys how his weekend was.
Yeah, because the Bears made Thursday night okay, but that was short-lived.
Hey, and all that you said, Kev, you didn't say one thing I disagree with. So we're going to hop into it. But before we do, I want to thank our sponsor. I actually got to hang out and see Scott Davies Friday night. That's right, Keeping It Orange and Blue, sponsor at Hometown Hype Apparel. You can get a hold of him at 217-278-0120. Still the whole season, promo code Orange and Blue. Get you 10% off your first order. And again, you just want to get your swag looking right. It doesn't have to be our Keeping It Orange and Blue shirts. You can have your own shirts. That he does anything and everything you could want. He's a great guy. He's an Illini fan. So you know what? Just try to help him get some business. And you know what? Maybe get some your program, your team looking right. Could be junior high, could be high school.
Get your Leroy Panther gear on. 7-0. My boy Braden Fox with 3 interceptions on the season. Lockdown corner. He's like a little mini Dion over there, number 10. Yeah, get you some Leroy Panther gear.
Yeah, there we go. So as Kevin alluded to, I'll give Jason Ron. I actually sat with Jason and Colton.
Yes.
But I sat with them. We had a good time, and we were just hitting them with jabs all night. Like, hey, I bet you they don't score right here, and it's like, boom, 4th and inches. No, nothing. That's how we had. Sadly, that's what we resorted to because it. Like at one point at the end of the game, it was like the defense had gotten 2 stops in a row, right? And I'm like, hey, guys, are we going to get past the 50? And I'm like, Colton, we getting past the 50? And he was like, no. And I'm like, another punt. Like, that's how it was up there in 2. Hey, represent 225. Section 225.
I really hope this doesn't turn into like it did like what was it in the late 90s when we would get a first down and like first and 10 really line and everybody just go nuts because we barely ever got first downs.
Oh my gosh, no.
But
So, as Jason said,
40,000 people in the stands.
Yeah, predictable. No reason people in the stands should be able to call out what they're doing before they do it, offensively and defensively. That was another thing we mentioned because we were like, I said, I could be a pretty good coach because if I know what's coming, you don't think Matt Rule knows what's coming? Like, come on, dude. He coached in the NFL last year. It doesn't matter if he didn't work out really good. Finally, Jason says, finally hearing some truth from Bielema coming out, stuff that has been said since the summer, specifically the O-line stuff, and Kevin, before, as one of the things we jump into, I get it. Like, the coach isn't just going to come out and tell everybody what he's worried about, but here's how I think. To me, it's getting to a point where fans are just not going to not believe anything he says because you don't have to actually give out any info on anything in particular. So when you just come out and run your mouth and just come out with fabrications, it's like that wasn't needed. When you consistently say, like, we like what we have in the offensive line every week when they're, getting steamrolled, it's like, okay, maybe we're not seeing something. And then at the end of the game, at post-game press conference, you hear Brett Bielema actually come out and say, well, it was something that we were really worried about, even at the end of spring, even at the end of fall camp, was our offensive line. But yet he kept telling everybody every week, we like what we have. I mean, he doesn't even have to say that. He can just say, we're working, these guys are working to get better. He doesn't say those things, though. So it's like he comes out and just keeps putting
you can't put too much stuff in the press conference stuff. He's got to put a hat on to make everything appear well. He's also never. I mean, you can't go blast your guys in the press. That's just not.
He's been blasting the love. He's been blasting Lunny and the offense, saying they're predictable.
He's finally had enough, right?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, though. So it's like now it's like I don't give a crap. I'm pulling it back, And he's like, in my 15 years, I've never had a team be this, bad from picking up a yard or 6 inches. Like this is just what he call it. It's insanity. That's what he said. It's insanity that his guys can't get a yard or a half a yard. To me, that's calling somebody out, Kev. Am I wrong?
No, you're exactly right, and it's frustrating to me. And like, listen, this is tough for me. Like I spent an entire half of football with Barry Lunny last year at a high school football game. I shared that on the show, and he's a first-class dude. And I want him to do well. I want him to succeed, right? I want Brett Bielema to succeed. I want Aaron Henry to succeed, but they're not. But they're not doing the right things right now. Like on Lundy, especially, is where I'm having the biggest issues. Holding the Nebraska to 20 points, considering where the offense was putting it, the special teams was putting it, wasn't actually that bad. I do think that there were some things we had some breakdowns defensively, and we got young guys in the secondary, and that's happening. But the problem I have with Lunny is he doesn't go back to the things that work. I talked about this on the show a couple of weeks ago, being a repeater, right? And he's not a repeater. I go back to we had a pretty good offense on a bad team a few years back with AJ Bush and Reggie Corbin. And we basically ran the same wrinkle every freaking play. RPO to Corbin, Bush keep it, or maybe make a little throw over the middle. And that offense could put up some points. And granted, Bush is faster and more athletic than Altmaier. Altmaier's obviously pretty dang athletic, and Reggie Corbin was pretty electric in the open field. But we don't when we run a play that works, we don't ever go back to it. And the other thing is when we get a run for for 5 yards on first down, we don't go back to do it again, do it again, do it again, do it until they stop you, and then if they start to stop you, run a wrinkle off of it. I mean, it is.
And not to interrupt, because we can each go for 5 minutes and just let it loose. But to that point, Lunny actually does the opposite. Lunny will run a play that didn't work the first time and then do it again.
Yeah.
Like against Penn State, you guys remember the McCray fumble I mentioned? So they got stuffed in the backfield the play before that just happened to be like a 15-yard face mask or something. What's he say? What's he call on the next play? The same play. And guess what? It got blown up again, and McCray fumbled at the 40 and set up Penn State for one of their touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, to me, what you're saying, Kevin, and what I just threw out in front of you is sadly too factual for its own good for a man who's called games at a high level at UTSA and even called them now for 2 years here, who's a smart guy who played quarterback at Arkansas. So to me, what the heck do you think's going on, though, Kevin? Like that just sounds like insanity, as Brett Bielema has mentioned.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there might be, and this has happened. I think there's a chance that we don't have the right personnel for the system, right? And when we've had this before, where I mean, it was years ago. Illinois went from like a road grading team to a zone blocking team, and like we just didn't have the offensive linemen were not built for a zone blocking scheme. I think it could be some of that. I think I think Barry wants offensive linemen pulling that are quick, and we don't really have we got big freaking road graders with the exception of Kreutz. Our offensive line is really big, and we're running plays that are requiring guys to move quickly, and it just doesn't work. SDR dropped a couple things here. He said, he has a friend who's an Arkansas fan who predicted this would Bielema. I want to touch on that, but he also said that Bielema said the right side of offensive line. Bielema said the left side of the offensive line was as good as he'd seen, and that was with Pearl at left tackle and Adams at left guard, and now we've had to move them around.
Here's a good one, real quick. This is a point I wanted to hit on, actually, so I'm going to post it on here. Tim has a good point. He says, why does Barry Lunny not know any plays that start with his QB under center? And it's not even that he knows them. Here's my problem, and Kev, you can touch on it here. It's that they haven't got Luke Altmaier comfortable with it yet. It's not that Lunny doesn't know them. It's like Brett has come out and said in his press conferences that they just hadn't felt comfortable with Luke under center yet because they really haven't even had him do it intentionally.
And
so just think about how you're handicapping your team.
And furthermore, how many? I mean, the commentators. Oh gosh, Mark Helfrich is so bad. How many snaps did they have that were low snaps? I mean, there was tons of low snaps. So like you should probably work some of that in. And I know we don't have a fullback on the roster, but you could put Henry Boyer at fullback. You could use Tanner Arkin at fullback. You could use Griffin Moore at fullback. You could use any of the tight ends at fullback. Those guys have played it before. They know what they're doing. It's just really frustrating. I want to talk about SDR's comment. Like, if you go look back at what Bielema did at Arkansas, he had a good first couple of years. And then what happened? He lost his staff. Guys got hired away from him, and he had to replace his staff. It was his second staff where things kind of went off the rails for him. Sound familiar? Like this is I have no idea or no clue what this team's identity is. And we're 6 games into the season. Like it is maddening. Like I don't know what we are. I don't know who we are. I don't know what we're good at. I don't know what we can do. And this is, there's dissension. There's got to be there's got to be some challenges in that locker room right now.
And that's why when you say, "Oh, well, don't take," but I know for a fact, okay, that what he says in the pressers, to me, I just don't like it that he's painting this rosy picture that's just so false, Kevin. That's the problem. It's not that he's saying good things. Okay, great. But then when you watch on the field, does it look like a team that loves each other that well? I mean, does it look like a team that plays hard for their brother next to him? Does it look like a team that's learning about Miles Scott, how to take a direct angle and maybe back off a little bit instead of coming full bore where you got Aaron Henry's like coaching him up? Well, Miles Scott's made the same mistake every game over and over and over again. Taz Nicholson, where's the leadership? There is no leadership.
Yeah.
It's like I watched him on one play, like right in front of me, like, this is what he's doing. Like, I don't know. We actually watched the whole series, me and Jason. Why is Taz like doing this? I don't know. The whole series.
It's it's the complete inverse of what we were saying last year when his team was 5-1. We harken back. You guys can go listen to episode 12 or whatever it was. What were we talking? We talked about how cohesive of a unit, how together they were, how they had this bond, how they were really like united family. We said it over and over on this show. And I called Brett, the CEO. I wrote an article on 200 columns talking about how this wasn't going to be 2009 and frankly it is. I struggle. Like, if people could talk about Indiana and Northwestern, I don't know that that's a win. And the things that, like, what we're doing, like, first of all, like, let's go to Altmaier's deep pass to Pat Bryant. Beautiful ball. Pat brought it in, made a nice play for 6. Pat Bryant, we've talked about, got some decent wheels, but he's not a burner. Like, why are we not seeing Ian Pugh, Sean Miller? Like, if that's what Altmaier can do well, and we're going to get those looks because we don't scare teams by taking them over the top, why are we not doing more of that? Like, we talked about the receivers aren't getting separation, man. And, dude, I am in the Casey Washington fan club. I love the dude. I want him to get a touchdown so bad. I love how hard he blocks and how hard he plays, and he makes some tough catches. But if you got receivers who aren't getting separation, we've recruited guys who are fast who should be able to do that. I know that I said last week that Hank Beatty can't play. He made a really nice play. Maybe we just got worried about him being tackled. I don't. It's just there's got to be some things that have to happen now before we impact the long term of this team. We lost a commitment from Pie Farm from Nebraska. He backed out of his commitment. I don't know where he's going to go. Makes you wonder if it's Nebraska now.
Yeah, he's been liking a lot of Nebraska stuff on X lately.
Right. Where's Malik Elzy? Like, Aiden Lawfrey? Like, these guys just aren't getting it. Like, if the other people, like, the one thing I'll give the defense credit for is when guys aren't performing, they're not playing. And I hate this because I love this dude too. Tariq Barnes barely sees the field. Was he out Friday? Saturday?
Yeah. Tariq Barnes was out Friday. He sat out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was he hurt?
Yes, he got hurt actually on the first series in the Purdue game, but he continued to play. But Brett put him out, and then Josh McCray's out for the year.
Yep. Reggie Love's out this week against Maryland,
and Reggie Love got hurt midway through this game, and so he's probably out against Maryland. And it's looking like Fegan and Lawfrey at Maryland right now.
Oh, we got to move. Nick Fidonzo's got to go back to running back then, right?
Nick Fidonzo's the third back right now.
Yeah.
So just to touch on a couple points before we delve into some more thing, I get, and that's because Luke's never played under center. Okay, but I think it's still up to Lunny and them to get him accustomed and get him familiar. That's their job. You can't just say, "Oh, well, you've never done it, so we're not going to do it." And that's just not how it works, considering that's how we had success last year. Another thing Jason was telling me, Kev, I'm incorporating a lot of people, which I like. Bielema has banked on early bye weeks. If you look at the last couple of years, they didn't look great heading into the bye week, and then boom, they make changes and install teams.
Still
Sadly,
3 weeks away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's after Wisconsin, so we're looking at a possible 2-6 before you can do that. That's why, man, winning one of these games against Wisconsin and Maryland's going to be tough, but man, they got to show up against Wisconsin at home. And I feel like if they can't show up against Nebraska, though, Kevin, on the night after Butkus died.
Dude, yeah, I buried that. God bless, dude. Why did the Bears come out with more emotions than Illinois? Dick's more connected to Illinois than he is the Bears. Like, let's be real here.
Like, all the coaches are wearing, his number. I mean, and his gear. Whitman's got his jersey on.
DB on the jersey, on the shirts.
A beautiful tribute before the game that they didn't put on the network. And then at halftime, and our players come out and lay that type of egg. Like, to me, that's what I was so angry and so embarrassed. I got to be honest. It was embarrassing, because Nebraska fans, as we're walking out, going, we expected a little more out of your guys tonight, and I'm like, yeah. We're just like, because it's like Nebraska literally was saying this, Kevin, do you guys want back in the game?
Hey, oh, yeah. They gave us every opportunity.
Do you guys want back in the game?
17-7 at halftime.
And Illinois got the ball. Illinois got the ball right after half. It was like
Nebraska got the ball to start the second half.
But Yeah, but Illinois stopped them, right? 3-and-out.
Yeah, pretty quickly. Yes, we did.
So the momentum was there. It's like another thing I noticed was that I'm sure anybody at home noticed this. You know how many times they threw the ball to Pat Bryant after that long touchdown?
Probably a big fat 0, right?
Once, and it was in the very last drive of the game with 2 minutes left. It's like, to me, explain that to me. Somebody, please.
Yeah.
The PhD and offensive coordinator. Like I'd love to. I just don't think if we had a chance to sit with Barry Lunny, I'd love, like, in the offseason, if he's still the coach, because at this point that's looking at like a big question mark.
I was pulling for Maryland so hard to beat Ohio State. If anybody watches Fade the Deuce, I talk a lot about college emotions. That's why the Dick Buckus thing is so frustrating to me, because emotions in college football sway things, right? It's the reason why Oklahoma State was able to beat Kansas State despite being an 11.5-point dog on Friday night. It was running about the same time as the Illinois game. Like, I was really hoping that Maryland was going to go shock Ohio State, and they were playing them very tough in the first half.
Maryland, you know what, though? One thing I noticed with this, Kev, Maryland plays like Illinois did with Mike Locksley. Just they do dumb things. Like, there's a lot of talent. They shoot themselves in the foot. Sound familiar? They leave points on the board. Like you saw at halftime, right? They couldn't get a ball. They couldn't, spike the ball to get a field goal to have. They would have been leading 20-10 had they just done a basic, hey, let's get down, everybody, and spike this. We got 6 seconds. They lollygagged up to the line. They dropped.
That play was so terrible. But anyway, like, I would have loved for them to win, because I think the emotions would have, like, bled over, like, thinking they're on top of the world, and we might have had a chance. And St. Dominic's Rosary said, "Is Josh McCray experiment over? Josh needs a transfer." I'm going to say this: Josh McCray is the perfect example of a guy who was brought into a system that fits him, that's in a system that doesn't fit him. Like, Josh McCray is not a take the ball from the shotgun, go laterally and cut north and south to find a hole. Josh McCray is a take the ball in an I formation and run that son of a gun up the middle and go run somebody the frick over and run through a tackle, and then use his athleticism to make big plays, just like he did against Purdue, just like he did against Penn State 2 years ago.
And Tony Peterson's offense was just a lot better for him. Yeah,
it is. And you know what? It's probably better for Caden Fagan too, but Caden Fagan has shown a little bit more wiggle. I think he's probably got a little more top end speed, and he has shown a really nice job of being able to run through some tackles. And I that's the one thing we can look forward to. It's one thing I've been looking forward to that the defense has done, is they put in players like young guys like Zachary Tobe, who's played well. Sabor Kareem drops another pick, man. We got to get that guy some sticky gloves or something, dude.
Yeah.
There's just some things, like, we've just got to get guys in positions to do some things differently.
There were so many moments that Illinois could have turned this game around, and even won it. Even though Nebraska, I think, was the better team in it. Let's move past they should have at least had 3 on the first drive. You got to get 6.
But the drive was beautiful until the end.
Yeah, so there's points you left on the board, right? Let's talk about the pick that you had. That was a pick 6 if he just holds the ball.
Yeah.
Pick 6 right there. Let's talk about earlier in the game. Heck, we didn't even get to the kickoff returns. Like, you can't twice. You can't field a kick it's a 35, 40-yard. That's setting you up in great field position right there, And twice, I think Tip Ryman struggled with that.
Yeah, he called a fair catch and then dropped the ball.
And then the special teams, even though Brett Bielema loves to defend them, rough night. You get your punt blocked on a rugby-style kick. You got kick returners calling fair catches who continue to run after they fair catch it.
And by the way, we rugby-style kicked one time with the wind, and then we standard punted into the wind. That's the exact opposite of what the rugby kick is. Was the DeJuan Warren, Ryan Langford rugby punt was designed to be punted into the wind, because it's like playing golf. I get to bring up golf here, right? When you're playing in the wind, you want to keep your ball flight low. And I'm like, we rugby style with the wind? No, put that sucker up in the air and let that thing fly, man. I will say this about Nebraska. The Harburger kid made some plays. He made a play on 4th and 5, and we can complain about all the defense that we want, and it led to a first touchdown. He made a hell of a play there. He eluded the defender on a blitz. We ran a nice blitz package, and he eluded the defender, and then he threw the guy open. And it was a really impressive play. I think our defense did everything right there. Sometimes you just get beat. But that being said, our offense did not give our defense a chance to win this game, and it's just maddening. So
yeah, and sadly, as Tony Peterson's mentioned a few times here, that reminds me, we've had that so many times, like with Tony Peterson 2 years ago. You got to remember when we got blanked 24-0 at home against Wisconsin. That was a breaking point game. Like this game right here, we had that same feeling we had when Tony Peterson and we got blanked at home. But the difference is the next year, you're like, oh, Chase Brown, it's like, oh, NFL running back. We got 2 NFL linemen on that. Well, we still have 2 NFL offensive linemen on this year's team. I think Pearl and Adams at least. But last year
he's been playing that like it, but he needs to.
but we
got to go back to guard.
Yeah, I got to be honest though, Kev. Do you disagree? And I want you to get to this question. But I think they just need to get back to solidify, at least have one really good side. I personally think that.
I think the line at line 1990 just chimed in here. It said, need to get back to playing football on offense. 40+ passing attempts at Illinois with this team is absurd. Run the ball. Here it is. Bring out the 2 tight end sets. Yes, I do believe that Illinois needs. I think Illinois needs to get back to a more physical style of offense and running the ball. Zachary Franklin ain't walking through that door. Like, we just don't have him. That's what made Lunny really good at UTSA. And
they had like 2 or 3 really good wide receivers, by the way.
Was Franklin the quarterback or was he the receiver?
No, Frank Harris is the quarterback.
Yeah, and Zachary Franklin, he's at some other Power 5 school now.
Yeah, they had 3 really good. Cephas was another one.
Yeah.
Who Dante, like he went off it on that night. They had 2 or 3 really good cornerbacks. But I can tell you this, I agree with the scheme thing. I think Bielema made a mistake with Lenny just in the sense of it's a good old boy he knows, a friend, maybe just trying to say, hey, I think he's going to be a hot commodity. But let me tell you, I've been talking to the UTSA people. I've kept in touch since that game. They think if it doesn't work out here that he'll come back to UTSA because Traylor does not like their OC there. And he agreed that his name's Jared Kalmus. He covers UTSA football. He told me that they never understood why Bielema wanted Lunny to begin with because he doesn't run anything that Bielema's ever wanted or had. So it just doesn't – to me, it just never really fit. The reason why it was successful last year is the personnel. If you have really good players, even – I think me and you could have probably called a few good games last year. So – I don't think Lunny's a bad coach. I just feel like he's making very bad decisions because he's got a lot of put on his shoulders now, and he knows he's screwed up quite a bit. And it's like, who else can you put it on when that's your job? Your job is to score points, and I think he's gotten 2. Here's one more thing I want to say: they haven't done many trick plays, but they've always worked when they have. Meaning those. What did we see against FAU, right, when we were in a pinch? I would have loved to see some trickeration at one point when you're getting stuff, doing what you're doing over and over again. Why not do something, pull a rabbit out of the hat? I would have loved to see something to get a spark. But no, Kevin, 20-7 the whole 4th quarter. It was like this: punt, stop, fumble, punt, stop, stop, stop. Okay, Illinois had the ball 4 times. Got past the 51 time. It's just maddening. And I know that Barry Lunny is better than that. I know he is. We've seen it. But he just continues to poop down his leg. And it's getting old. So, Kevin.
What are your sources telling you inside the locker room? What are you hearing there?
Well, in regards to – so I talked to a couple guys, and both of them talked directly to players and the players' parents. And they're just saying that, the chemistry is just with amongst the coaches and then the players is just not the same. It's not great, and with the Lunny situation, they don't see how Lunny will be back next year if it continues this way. So, and it's not like, oh wow, that's really some breaking news, but that's what the players are feeling and hearing and thinking, and that's what the players' parents are feeling and thinking as well. Is that once you get down this slippery slope, and let's say Illinois goes 4-8 or 5-7, how could you look the fan base in the eye and say, well, we're going to go ahead and bring him back after an abysmal year? Like, to me, that doesn't sell tickets. That's not sexy. Like, and Brett Bielema, 6.5 million reasons, because he's going to lose a fan base if shit doesn't get fixed. And it's sad because of how much hope and how much people were buying in, 50,000 people the first couple games. And I'm telling you, by Indiana Northwestern, Kevin, you're going to have 25,000 people in those seats, all in 1 year. So you got to do something. So I ask you, what can be done to get the offense going, man? 13 points per game in Big Ten play.
I'll continue to say it. They've got to be willing to run Altmaier. They've got to be willing to run Altmaier. They've got to get Aiden Lawfrey some touches in space. Dude, the RPO stuff where we're running it and we got to roll Altmaier out for protection's sakes a little bit more. The tight end in the flat, the running backs in the flat. There's got to be more of that stuff. And then when you get the defense to creep up, you can run some wrinkles off that. That's my opinion. I do think I would like to be able to see, like you said, a strong side. I don't know if it's Hunter Whitenack and Brandon Henderson moving over to the right side. Like,
Hey, Whitenack played pretty solid for his first real start.
Yeah.
He was the only one that got a PFF grade on the entire O-line, Kevin.
Yeah.
Think about that. Hunter Whitenack, let me give you a shout out. Even though it wasn't a big number, it was a respectable number for a dude who's like, hey, go get him, man. You're in there.
Yeah. And this goes back to it. All right. So Bart Miller was hired when Bielema started with Tony Peterson, right?
Yeah.
Bart Miller might not have the coaching chops to coach the offensive line for Barry Lenny's system. I mean, that literally might be it, right? I mean, there's all these things like there's just not a cohesion of fit here. And then Sean Gardner asked
Miller or Lenny's not going to have a job at the end of this year.
Or both of them.
Or both, yeah. They're both Brett guys, but Miller more so. But also too, I know we just lost Pyfrom, but Miller has done a pretty decent job recruiting O-linemen, I think.
Yeah.
So,
and I want to chime in a couple different questions here. Sean Garner said, "Can we get a QB change?" I don't think it's an Altmaier problem. I really don't. I really don't see it. Paddock has not shown me anything. Paddock's made some of the worst throws I've ever seen. It's like the first throw he comes in and he looked good in his mop up duty, but he's playing against garbage defenses. And then SDR says Whitman has to be pissed and that he's thinking that Brett's gone if we don't go to a bowl game next season. Not a lot of ADs get a chance to hire a third football coach. So just saying that Josh Whitman,
I don't know, man. He might be able to live off the Underwood success. I'm just saying,
dude. Well, fans are pissed about that too. I mean, and you know me.
Yeah, I know. All right, so and I will say
basketball starting.
Yeah, I will say this. I'll chime in a little bit. I feel like what's the worst thing that could happen if we go back to more of a barge package for a little bit? Like what's the worst that could happen? Could it be any worse than this? Like,
Ryan, that's like asking you or me to go run a 400-meter dash, dude. Like, it's not going to work out very well.
You know what? I like Paul Christ as a name, to be honest with you, but
that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, what? So I got to say this in regards to the comment with Sean Garner, and I'm gonna go hard on it, and I'm okay with it because I do think that it's unfair of us to people to just shit on Altmaier like this is a lot of his, like it's a lot of him. I think he's a nice player. I think he's a good player, and I think he has a lot of very good attributes. But to put it in this perspective, this is what is still a seventh start. And to throw him in, to have such an abysmal offensive line, really in your freshman year as a starter, and playing against some really good teams right away early on, and to be thrown in against a Penn State with such a bad O-line, I know that wasn't easy. But really, other than that game, he's been pretty good. I think this is his second 300-yard passing game, and I know he did throw it a lot, but still, like, he was not the reason that Illinois didn't convert on the goal line to start the game off. Like, he had one bad throw against Nebraska, that interception. But also, as I've explained to people, he's trying to make a play to get stuff rolling, because how frustrated do you think it is for him? Like, he's the one taking the snaps. He's the one running for his life all game. He's a tough son of a gun, man, and he's getting up.
He is.
He's a tough dude, and I applaud Luke, and I really hope he stays, even though I know it'd like, well, you'd have to sit out someplace, and because he's already transferred. But I think Luke Altmaier is a good quarterback, and I think you can build around him. And when you look at his numbers when the season's over, considering the O-line we have, and the fact that the run game's non-existent, Kevin, here's another fun stat for everybody. Illinois got 23 rushing yards on that first drive. Guess
negative for the rest of the game.
Negative the rest of the game. Okay? So your O-line can't pass protect for you. Your running backs can't run for you. Your O-line can't run block for them. What the hell do you guys want Luke Altmaier to do?
Right.
The man's running for his life. He's literally running for his life. And when he's beat up out there, the man still gets up and will throw that first down on the next play. Like, for goodness sake, I just wanted to give that man some dap. It's not he hasn't been great, but for goodness sake, he's been pretty good for the circumstances he's had thrown in his face.
Yep. I mean, I'm not giving it to him. So no. I just don't think it's an Altmaier problem. I just don't think.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, and another good comment here. Can you guys address the rumors with Jacobs and NIL and supposedly Luke and Petty getting his NIL money? I'm hearing Jacobs is out of here after the season. Guess what? That's a big issue here with Bielema, because I know he did spend a lot of his NIL money.
Who's he going to go play? Illinois State?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, you've done nothing.
Yeah, he has.
You've done nothing on the field.
And this is all speculation. People are saying, if you watch his performances on the field, it's like he's purposely just trying not to get hurt. And like, he's just out there just in motion, just playing to play. He's not really trying to do anything. And I'm not saying he's sabotaging, but more of like, he's playing because he's pretty much obligated to, and he can't just quit. But he's not really out there trying to kick ass like he was last year. Because to me, I'm thinking, here's the best way I could say this. When you got NFL scouts coming and going like, who's that guy? Who's that guy? You're a freshman All-American. And then this year it's like, is he on the team? Like, what's really going on behind the scenes? So, as Illini 90 says, Jacobs' play on the field tells you all you need to know about him.
Yeah.
And I'm in St. Dominic's Rosary. We're all concerned about the players leaving after the season. Everybody should be, because there's changes coming to a lot of teams. Like, players are going to leave. There's going to be some good players that we were like, man, they have a bright future. They're going to leave because they didn't get to play much. That's just how it is.
That's why I got frustrations on the offensive side of the ball, because there's things that aren't getting done over there. More so that because the defense has shown the flexibility and the willingness to rotate players in more so.
Yeah. And you know what? Right now, though, as much as I know Bielema's the head man, he can make it happen. He's been allowing Lunny to make those calls. And for whatever reason, he likes to run Reggie Love on the goal line and not Caden Fegan. And he'd prefer to have his very good 4 and near 5-star wide receivers on the bench all game. And
right.
So it is what it is. Sadly, and that's why many Illinois fans are very unhappy with him. So with that being said, we'll transition really quickly for about 5 minutes on Maryland, because this, I'm not worried about the spread, 14.5, but more of so of what can Illinois do, like 2 years ago when Illinois played Tua and Maryland and Illinois, Ryan Walters played the three front and then dropped like 8 guys all game.
Yeah.
And with Maryland has a really good set of wideouts that Ohio State had a problem handling, by the way. So Illinois travels to Maryland, 2:30 kick on NBC. Kevin, what's with this momentum of negativity and just guys not performing, and is there any hope Saturday, Kevin?
No. I mean, I called it last week. I said we were going to get our ass kicked, and we did. It's just no. There's nothing there that gives you a sign of life. And listen, I hope I'm dead wrong. But no, I don't see it. I don't.
Yep, and I want
34-10, Maryland, maybe 41-10.
Yeah, this is a game for a couple weeks. I'd mentioned that in my 9-3 prediction, this was one of the losses. So I want everybody to know that. I just knew that Tua is tough to contain. We haven't been getting much pressure on guys really for the most part all year anyway. And this isn't a guy you're just going to grab right away if you get to him. He's super elusive, and he actually throws a really good ball on the run.
Yeah.
And Maryland has good wide receivers, so that's not really a good recipe for success. So, and they're going to be mad, when they had a chance to maybe get a big upset there in Columbus. They're going to actually be fired up and play to win. And I think the thing that makes me so upset about this and super disappointed, it wasn't even about repeating to get to 8-4 or even winning the Big Ten West. I was wanting to see some continued continuity of competence, like the 5-7 year in year one, Illinois was competing and battling, should have been a bowl team. They blew a couple games, but they were in every game.
Yeah.
In year 2, 8-4, should have been 10-2, should have won the Big Ten West. Okay. Year 3 doesn't have to be that, but we got to get to a bowl game. Just shit all over, just shit,
It's just shit. It's just shit.
And so
it's an unwatchable product too. It's really. I mean, I struggle to watch the game. Struggle.
I hate for people who just say, "Oh, you're so negative, Ryan." Sometimes I do tweet negative, and I am bitter because you know what? We deserve better, and that's all there is to it. We deserve better. It's not like I come home and I can't go to work because I'm so angry and bitter. I can't be a father. I can do all those things. But when something's your passion and, you spend and invest a bunch of your time, and guess what? Money too. Thousands and thousands of dollars we've invested in going to games, being there, buying merch, going to the games, helping to promote the product. We as fans deserve better. And I get that these guys are hurting too. That's great. So then show it on the field. That's all I ask. Show it on the field, because if I can tell you, that was not an enjoyable thing to watch Friday, to sit and freeze your ass off, to just sit there and watch Nebraska won it more a day after Dick Butkus passes away. It's pathetic. And I'm sorry, I'm always going to keep it real. Keeping it orange and blue doesn't mean we're keeping it rose, orange, and blue colored like we don't see the realness here. So I hope after today's episode, you can really get me and Kevin love the programs, but we're not just going to be all, sunshine and rainbows all the time. And I don't want this program to start tanking again and dealing with the whole bull crap of Beckman to Lovey again. I'm wanting Bielema to get it right.
Well, dude, it's dependent. Like we do this, we put a lot of time, we put a lot of effort into doing this show, right? You do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't understand. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And frankly, at some point in time, if you don't have a product worth watching, we don't have a show worth listening to. So it's in our best interest for Illinois to be good. It's not like we're like, and neither one of us are calling for Brett Bielema's job. Like, no. We're not in that camp at the moment. I'm not calling for Barry Lunney's job, but he better fix something and fix it real damn quick. And it's just, It's just frustrating. It's just
Yeah, and I want to.
You said it best. It's just shit.
Yeah, it's just shit. And
That should be the name of this episode. It's just shit.
It's just shit. That would have drew a lot of.
Rename it. And we throw it back on the YouTube, the podcast. It's just
that's
shit.
what I can say this too in a fun, family friendly way is. So my family, my girlfriend and my kids and my mother, they know I love this stuff. So when my mom doesn't even text me until the next day and goes, "Are you okay?" Like that's how bad it is because they knew when I came in the door, just don't even say anything because it's shit. So, and like I said, I think Brett Bielema is a very good coach, and I think that he can have the program stable, and I would like him to be that guy. So I think he doesn't. I've never once said I think he should be fired. The only time that will arise is if next year's worse than this year. If it's that bad next year, let's say recruiting's tanking, then I'm going to say,
how's it going to be better right now? You losing the only two guys you can count on for performance the only three guys you can count on for performance every week are all gone.
Well, the transfer portal is Kev. They're going to have to spend some money.
There ain't no Johnny Newtons or Keith Randolphs in the transfer portal.
Well, I know that they did spend a lot of their money on keeping those guys, so now they're going to have to spend money on other places. But I will say this:
when you don't win, that money goes away.
Yeah. Well, if Whitman wants to win enough, I guess we'll figure it out. He'll have to, if his job's riding on it.
Maybe if the dumbass university wouldn't have denied Shad Khan an honorary PhD because he was a non-union guy with Flexingate, it might fucking help. Fucking dumbass university. Sorry.
Oh man, yeah,
that happened.
Yeah. So before we end the show, because we have really just took big dumps on the football program right now, but for good reason. There's a lot of there's some good players on the team. There's some guys who deserve it, and I'm going to mention them right now. Again, Isaiah Williams leads the Big Ten in receptions.
Tougher than nails, dude.
And yards over Marvin Harrison Jr., by the way.
No.
He's on his way. I don't care if he finishes second, and we'll say Harrison will probably catch him in yards, But if Isaiah Williams finishes in the top 2 in yards, and let's say he's first in receptions, no way you can keep him off first team All Big Ten.
Nope.
So
Dylan Rosiak played really well.
Yeah, Dylan Rosiak played really well, and so did Kenneth Odeluga again.
Yes, he did. Yep.
And he led the entire country. Outside linebacker. The PFF grade, like 92.
Yep. I thought Nicario Harper played really well.
Yeah.
He was all over the place.
Yep. So
I mean, he missed some tackles, he missed some plays, but like I don't when zero's flashing all over the screen, I'm cool with that, dude.
Yep. And it seems like and James Kreutz had a big fumble recovery in the fourth quarter. So it's good to see some of these young faces. And Rosiak, I think Rosiak's a little better than we thought. I think it's just a little bit
better. Yeah, game's coming to him a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm happy with that. Again, so Isaiah Williams, this will be his last year, but he's getting the love that he deserves. So other than that, I hope we can get Caleb Griffin's confidence back some to a degree. I know he missed a 52, 53-yarder, but you could just tell, like, before he kicked it.
I love the guy, but if you're going to kick a 52, 53-yard field goal and this guy's not the big leg that you have on kickoffs, let Alano kick it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was hoping that. I was watching him in pregame, and Alano was hitting him pretty consistent from 50. But Caleb Griffin has shown he can hit him from 52. So other than that, want to see a more confident Caleb Griffin. So hoops real quick.
A lot of visitors, man. We had a lot of visitors on campus this weekend.
Yeah, Kendall Gill's son, Phoenix Gill, was there. And some other 2025 and 2026 kids.
Is it Jeremy Fears or I've always confused.
Jeremiah Fears was there last Monday.
Yeah.
And I put in my prediction in for Jeremiah Fears to be an Illini. I know it switched up a little bit in the last few weeks, but when you get overwhelming news and info from people who don't just give you that just to do it, I feel pretty good about that. to me, it's like 2024 was feeling like what it was going to happen. But I mean, I think it's a little too soon for him to try to come. He needs to put weight on. But I still am keeping my prediction that at least for 2025 he'll be in Illini. So, that'll be huge. I would love to say I think Phoenix Gill for sure is coming to Illinois because it's Kendall's son. His mother actually went to Northwestern, so it's not such a surefire thing. But I think he will. I think eventually, when it boils down to it, he'll pick Illinois. But right now, not feeling as confident, not feeling good like Jeremiah Fears is right now. So Illinois hoops, we're excited, Kev. They're picked third in the preseason polls. So, hey, maybe this is the year, man. Maybe this is the year. We'll be talking more about that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I heard DeMosk is really impressing, really impressing. Might be the second best passer on the team. He was out for the Spain trip, and I heard he is him and Terrence Shannon, Coleman Hawkins on the floor together are looking really well. Hearing Nico Moretti is much better than people expected. And hey, I know it's just practice and stuff, but I saw a no hesitation kick to Ty Rodgers, top of the key 3-pointer that he drained, and I'm like, hey, it looked like the stroke looked good. Sean Garner asked, will the basketball team be good? I know this. I think that this team, if they were playing 12-on-12 basketball, would be one of the best teams in the country. Unfortunately, there's only 5 guys to play on the floor at one time. Brad Underwood has a massive amount of work to do to figure out his rotations, and that's going to be really difficult. A couple things. I think we're really big. I think we're physical big, not tall big, but I think we're physically big. Guerrier, DeMoss, Goody, Coleman Hawkins, Dane Danger. Dane Danger ran a 5:30 mile, by the way. What the hell in the world? I think we're going to be really good on the boards, and I think we'll play really good defense.
I think Quincy Guerrero is going to help out a lot.
Yep. How we operate in the half-court offense will be very interesting without a real true point guard that we think is going to get major minutes, and maybe Nico does. Nico is really impressing. You guys saw some highlights in Spain. More athletic than people give him credit for, can shoot. It's just, can he defend? But you got a lot of length and a lot of good defenders out there otherwise. And Terrence Shannon's playing really well. So I think we have the opportunity. We have the challenge. We have the potential to be very good, but we have some. We've got some. Underwood's got the rotation things that are gonna be tough for him. So.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm very, very hopeful that's going to be a fun year. I like what I'm hearing, but you know what? We heard a lot of good things last year too. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant a little bit. But
we were also one of the youngest teams in college basketball last year. We're one of the oldest this year. So
that is the difference. And the 3-point shooting, I think there's guys that can make those. So Kev, final thoughts. Anything we didn't go over tonight? Maybe.
Adrian DeMont Duchassart officially got his PGA Tour card by finishing in the top 30 on the Korn Ferry Tour. So ADDC is going to be on the PGA Tour next year. Pretty excited about that. Nick Hardy competed in this week's tournament, played fairly decent. Steve Stricker did not win, so it's not worth talking about because that's all that guy does on the Senior PGA Tour. So just a little couple added thoughts there. But here, added thoughts, I'm as disappointed with an Illinois football team as I think I've quite possibly ever been. I was never a believer in Ron Zook. Thought he was a little bit of a buffoon. I thought we had a little bit of fool's gold in 2007. I thought we had fool's gold in 2019 by winning some fluke games. I thought the way we were consistent in our last 19 games coming into the season or whatever it was post-Virginia, that this team was the Virginia loss in Bielema's first year. I thought that this team was going to be a lot different, man. And I'm just I'm sad.
Yeah.
I'm sad.
Sad, and very rightfully so. I would say, so my final thought is I really hope the changes that we're hearing can be actually made to salvage what I think the momentum of last year's team and the program of, who wants another turnover after next year. I'm hoping that I know this. The staff is not going to look like this at the end of this year. It's not going to look like this. There's going to be some sort of change. it has to happen. But I hope that Brett gets it right, because if he doesn't make the right call, and let's say it is Lenny, that's probably going to be the last OC he hires. You can't just keep hiring 4 and 5 OC.
You don't get a fourth. Yeah.
Yeah. So has to be right. Okay. And the guys next year they become leaders, because right now there is no leadership on the team because these guys are playing for their draft stock. Sadly,
you got to have leadership at levels, right? Like you have to have. All right, so we had leadership at the defensive line last year with Newton and Randolph. We had leadership at in the linebacker position with Isaac Darkangelo, and I think Tariq Barnes would be included in there. We had a ton of leadership in the secondary. We had leadership on the offensive line. We can go through Palcho probably was that guy. We had leader in the running back room with Chase. Like Tommy DeVito was a leader through and through. He's like Luke is very different.
He wants to be a leader, but he's just learning.
He's not. Yeah. So there's all like you lost so much of that. I mean, the only real leadership that we had is real continuity is on the defensive line and in the wide receiver room.
So my end to this is I want to see that taken seriously, because if Brett doesn't, apathy, I think, is the best word. The program and the fans have shown that there'll be an empty stadium on senior night. So on the senior day against Northwestern. So I hope
I'll be there.
Yep, we'll be there. I'll be there rooting them on, and I hope it's a 5-6 Illinois team playing for a bowl game, Kev. So I hope they can have some sort of let them hang a little bit, have some pride, and go out there and get one of these next two to set yourself up for Minnesota, Iowa, Indiana,
And
Northwestern.
I'm more than willing to go to Lot 31 after the game for the Keyboard Warriors. So it was all good.
Yeah. I know they like to troll me over that. But what's hilarious is when they say those things to me.
Hey,
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so
I know I brought it up.
So with that said, take it serious. The players got to want it more than me and you, Kev, and so do the coaches. So with that said, swallow me out.
FamILLy.